So the Montreal Canadiens were here at intermission for the Hawks Leafs. But the Montreal Canadiens, I think they could trade a few guys. More so, I'm looking at Dadonov could be a potential trade, but a modified no trade clause. We'll see. But on his last year of his deal, same thing with Jonathan Drouin, but we'll see the health status and all that leading into the deadline. Hoffman could be a potential. Monahan's coming back from injury soon. I think Monahan, for a team that's like looking for center depth, I know Colorado will be looking for a center, so Colorado could look at a guy like Monahan. Between Dvorak and Armia, maybe. Josh Anderson's so interesting to me because I really think, from Montreal's perspective now, they're not going to trade Josh Anderson unless it's like a first-round pick plus a really good prospect, and maybe the Habs will take like kind of a risky contract back. But like apparently the Habs, and solid sources were saying this, the Habs were offered a first-round pick for Josh Anderson, so it's going to take much more than that, especially if they're willing to take a contract back. But I think based on their preference, they don't want to trade Josh Anderson. So it's just like a lot of those other situations out there. The Habs will have to get blown away with an offer. The only other guys I'd say is, like, again, depending on health status, the same way. Edmondson, he's been in and out of the lineup at times. I don't know if he's getting a first-round pick. We just talked to Mark Spector about it. Edmonton talking in the past with Edmondson, or talking to the Habs about Edmondson. I just don't know if the Edmonton Oilers are giving up a first for a guy that has that risk factor. Past that, maybe David Savard, maybe Chris Weidman because of the contract. And then I think they're keeping Jake Allen because they extended him. And that's probably it. I mean, I know there's been Brendan Gallagher rumors in the past, maybe like an off-season move. But when we're talking about deadline, I really think those guys... And I think Montreal could be in for some of those guys that maybe just need to change the scenery, whether it's a Jesse Puljujarvi. I've talked about Puljujarvi to the Habs so many times. A guy like Roslovic in Columbus. I know he's a Columbus boy, but he's struggled to find a role at times. I wonder if that's a potential. I would even go to the lengths of like looking at an Edmonton in general and looking at if Montreal and Edmonton were going to make a trade, maybe the Oilers target one of their prospects. But it's interesting with Montreal. It's hard to really narrow down prospects that they're looking for, but obviously I would imagine Kent Hughes is going to try to pull a first-round pick at this deadline, at least a first. I don't know who he would get it from outside of Edmonton if they can try to convince. But Josh Anderson would be had at maybe a first prospect plus. That's what Montreal expects, at least. So I don't know. I don't think Josh Anderson will get traded for that reason.